to another Flying Colors Ship of the Line scenario. Here we have something called the Moonlight battle. Fighting went on well beyond midnight. And essentially it's going to be a chance for the English to shoot up a lot of Spanish ships, as far as I can tell. The wind's not, well, it's not really in either person's favor, to tell you the truth. The English are beginning to turn so that they're running with it, but, you know, or reaching. But the Spaniards, if they turn in and face the English, will also be reaching, or if they try to run. I haven't decided whether or not I've got full sails deployed. I'll probably end up doing it just because it only makes sense. This game doesn't penalize you that much. It makes rigging shots a little better. Now, the Spaniards have no bonus on rigging shots, nor on hull shots. So they're only going to be facing the wind situation. They're a little worse than even the French are in facing these things. For the English, Rodney is considered to be ill, which means instead of his 2 command rating here, he has a 0, but he also has still this big 7 radius. I'm going to be taking the designer's suggestion of a, hey, this might work as a quick fix if you don't have the Serpents of the Sea cards to help your formations work better in formation. I may look at the Serpents of the Sea cards to see the rules for them, but I don't have the cards themselves. So I don't think they're going to work in that way. But essentially what it is, hey, the formations are going to operate as a formation. And once you define a formation, you run it as a formation. One of the other things is, hey, just, you know, allow these breaks under a reasonable situation. Just say turns are allowed, you know, so a column can turn without having to follow any kind of special rules. And, you know, play it as a rule of thumb rather than trying to define the exact rules that will work in a rule set. Trust me. After dealing with Crusades, I'm perfectly willing to mod things to all hell and creation. But the other suggestion he had is, once you define a formation, you can't break that formation unless you make the same roll that you would make to be able to run an out-of-command ship as though it's in command. And that seems pretty reasonable to me as kind of a, hey, if you want to break the formation, if you don't want the ships to maintain their position, if you want to create that chaos that I despise, by the way, right? But it's always in someone's advantage to make that chaos. Well, if you want to do that and make a formation into a mess, you can. You just have to make a roll to do so. And the worse your command rating, the less capable you are of doing that, and the worse your audacity. In this battle, we're going to have normal wind, and, well, we got the direction here. The battle will last until all the Spanish ships are gone. Whether that's sunk, driven off the map, whatever. You can tell who's supposed to win this one, right? I've also got to try to remember to use the carronades here. British fire at range 3 or less, or 1 or less, is... See, I don't know what the cumulative is. I don't remember if it's, and I don't know if it's stated. If it's supposed to be range 3, you get +1, range 1, it goes up to +2. Or if it's range 3, it's +1, but in this later date, it goes up to +2. I'm assuming that it's actually by the range, but I don't remember. Spanish aren't going to have them, so only the English have carronades, and I keep forgetting those. Those are just bonuses to your rate, which, or not to your rate, but to your fire value, right? Yeah. So that's something that I left out of a couple of the battles recently. In fact, I've been forgetting it all along. No, last battle, Granada was the first time I should have been using it. And I think I remembered that I'm supposed to use it at the beginning of the battle, but then didn't actually ever use it. That's okay, the British pretty much took the French to the cleaners on that one. Alright, well, I don't know if with my recording I've changed things. So last time was the first time that I recorded the rates, which is important when a ship's got a chance of sinking, when it's taken more than its total damage, or its total damage or more, you roll a die, and if you get equal to or under the original rate it sinks. Well, so that's a useful thing to have, and flipping the counters was kind of a pain. But the problem I had was it was over in one of my firing sections. So now what I've done is, instead of where I'm marking my first fire, I'm putting it above the ship name. It's a very rarely used piece of information, so I can make it kind of harder to see. And, well, this should be interesting. Okay, everybody's under full sail. The English first command slides up. They have the initiative automatically. Remember, they have like a 2 audacity here, which I have remembered, which gives them +2 to their firepower values whenever they're determined on here, which is just tremendous. Plus, we've got the initial broadsides coming in, firing at the rigging in both cases. And both sides are shooting each other up. Basically, the English view here is, I can't let the Spanish just disengage. I want to win this battle, right? If I let the Spanish go first under full sail, they could turn away and run from me. That may be a little harder if I start shooting some of them up, like this guy who's now down a speed. This guy who's now down 2 speed and no longer has his full rigging. So I'm kind of forcing the Spaniards to fight here, which may not be that big a thing. Yes, they slowed me down too, but at this point the Spaniards have to start considering going for hull hits, try to end this battle early. Although that's going to be tough because the audacity counts against you for ending a battle early. Oh no, that can't even happen in this one. This one just goes until all the Spaniards are gone. And if they all disengage, I guess you count points, which means the Spaniards kind of, for their side, they want to cripple an English ship or more English ships than they take, and then try to disengage. That's their best goal. They could sacrifice one of these slowpokes, but that'll lose them the battle. So they want to, now they've been forced into a position where they have to engage. That actually puts the initiative, and the initiative was on the English, that now puts the action on the Spaniards though. I didn't go over all the special rules for this at all. Let's take a look at what we got here. So each turn, on a 4 or less, the wind goes up to breezy. We already have that. We have the illness for Rodney, and the British get the initiative to begin the battle. And that's it, other than, I think I mentioned there's shoals over here, which I don't know how much effect they're going to have. There's no particular, hey, the Spaniards want to disengage in one direction or another, although supposedly there's a port over here somewhere where they should be wanting to go. And here's our positioning after one round, one turn. I have to keep track of turns because of possibility of wind change. The Spaniards are trailing some of their ships. This is a problem. Those guys are now out of command unless they succeed in a roll. I didn't realize what was happening as I swung these guys in. That's legal. These guys remained in command. These guys involuntarily have fallen behind. It's not the kind of thing that I'm worried about in terms of the breaking of command. What I'm worried about is when you get that kind of mass melee happening, which is to someone's advantage and not to someone else's. And in this case, it would be to the British advantage because their commander is, well, they have more commanders. Their commander's in the middle. Anyway, the English have kept their full rigging up on many of their ships. And in fact, these guys also had it up. I can take these off to see the damage that they took coming in with that. But the Spaniards also took some damage, probably a little bit more. And we had this lead English ship, even though it's only a 4th rate, got to fire the carronades. First time I've ever fired them. That extra +2 on top of the +2 for audacity and +2 for first fire. Managed to do quite a bit of damage. Knocking it, 6 hull hits. That's enough to give it a penalty on its next shot. It's a rate worse already. I must have been tired as hell last night. Just look at these Spaniards. They're just lined up. The English won the initiative, and they're going to ride right down the bows of all those ships. Ouch. Well, proving my inability to read a bunch of modifiers very easily. Firing when full sails are raised is a penalty. Makes sense, trust me. However, I haven't been playing with that, which is why I've been keeping full sails as I've closed, say here or whatever. But you really, I'll leave things as they are, and obviously I can't go back and change the games that I've played. But obviously, once you start getting close, you do not want them up. And you don't even want them for the closing range, because you can't remove it till you're done with your movement. So, you know, as the British sailed up here, they could have removed them, and now they wouldn't have them. The problem is, in this scenario, they might have wanted to keep them, because this is a potential where the Spanish might want to just get out of here without fighting. And that option is no longer available because of the full sails. Some of the shots, but in both directions, would have been weaker. Oh well. Okay, I am not using the regular command check here, but we're going to be doing an attempt to break formation with this ship. The reason is I don't want to sail right into the Spanish guns here, even though the ship's on fire. What I want to do is I want to make a starboard turn, and that'll get my guns in line so that I can shoot at this ship again. And it's going to have, you know, basically I'd be sandwiched with rakes in both directions if I keep my formation in place. I don't want that to happen. However, I don't think the Fleet Admiral should have any effect on this. Unlike the normal out of command, the Fleet Admiral probably wants you to stay in position. Not that that's an issue here, because Rodney's a 0 right now, but all I have to do is roll under my audacity, and, well, equal to or under. And we got a 2 there, and the English are going to try that. They don't succeed. Since they don't have a chance to come back into command, they're going to pay heavily for where they just went. Well, not that heavily. The good old Edgar here managed to slip in there, taking only a rigging and a hull hit. Just because of the damage. This one's on fire. This one's already damaged. You can see the Spanish column has formed back up out of that line. I still got all these out of command. Poor suckers out there. But the rest of these managed to come by and get shots, second shots in at least a couple of them. But they also took second fire from the English starboard side. So it's not going well for the Spaniards. Don't be in any doubt about that. This was very poorly done by me for them. And the other English column comes up, and they're kind of sheathing the Spanish ships. You can just imagine what that's doing to these. These guys have already fired out both broadsides, and now they're taking first fire. Now, granted, the English ships were under full sails, so that ups their rate by 1. But with all the advantages, carronades, first fire, English audacity, it's +6. We were hitting on the 17 through 19 table on these guys, just pounding the crap out of them. And some of them are getting ready to actually be able to strike at this point. We have the end position of turn 2. And I mean, it's kind of beautiful to watch something like this unfold. This is getting very close to what I was hoping for from a naval game, to tell you the truth. Beginning to see the, hey, you can't just walk out of formation. I think that's enough to help it, to tell you the truth. Seeing, there's difficulties. The out-of-command guys, for example, well, some of them got engagement rights. For example, this guy and this guy, you can see they fired. But this guy, who did not have engagement rights, got fired upon. We're going to have trouble maintaining the connection. I would say this is in command and this is in command. These guys... See, basically, we've tightened up the formation a little bit, which allowed these guys to be in command. These guys, I don't think I can call them in command anymore. I think they're still going to be having trouble. Basically, they can't see this. The flags here are indicating, you know, to be making a turn to port. That's not going to make any sense to this. So the line is too broken up. You know, one turn is one thing, but unless it's this even formation, there's no way that I'm going to allow those guys to stay in command. And again, you know, there are no rules for this as it stands, but they will be forthcoming. That's one thing that I was assured of. They're continually working on improving the system. And that's the kind of thing that makes things like the OCS, the CWB, stuff like that such great systems, is that they have continued to be worked on. If I really, really love Naval War, I have an enjoyment of it. There's no question. But the terrain factor, you know, it's less interesting to me. And naval warfare stayed the same for so damn long. It really did. You know, from the beginning of the 18th century to the end of it, certainly you can almost say almost nothing changed. And then, well, the carronades come in this, but the fundamentals of the ship seem so similar. And even if you stretch further back, they're not that different. Not to the very beginning of the gunpowder era. Certainly when galleons and galleasses are out there and still some galleys, the world is a lot different. And in fact, you still have galleys fighting, you know, at the beginning of the 18th century, but in certain select areas. But the point is, these are all Age of Sail games covering a huge period without a lot of terrain interest, although the game tries to do it with the reefs and shoals and gun locations and such not. I'm just trying to sell myself on the idea of buying more of these, in particular the Russian one, which strikes me as very interesting, but I don't know how much naval combat I can take. But there is something very beautiful about watching something like this come out. And, well, with a few tweaks, I'm beginning to respect this system more and more, and find that the burdens drift away as it becomes more what I was hoping for, because the chaos is less likely. Anyway, babbling on for no good reason here, but I like what we're seeing here, even if this is even if I played the Spaniards very poorly and got them in a situation where, yeah, they're all going to get wrecked. Okay, so starting this, third turn here, the English got the initiative and they moved this first column here. The reason being, they've got full sails on some of these back ships. They're not going to have as much of a firing opportunity, so I guess I'll let the Spaniards go first before these ships move, for that simple reason. These guys will get immediate, they'll get fire as the Spaniards pass by them anyway, so there's not really a need to worry about that. But we had kind of a cute situation. I don't remember with which one. I think this guy, where he was able to swing his ass around right in front of him and get a rake and then slide out and move back into position. I'm not sure which ship did that. But basically, I'm allowing some flexibility in maintaining formation, which is to say, as long as you can reach formation at the end of your turn, it's okay. No check required. So beginning to see some of the complexities of trying to maintain order under these circumstances. Kind of broke down here as I'm trying to swing around. I didn't have enough movement points, but the entire Spanish line moved into line, beating into the wind from where they were before, with this hope of a pass through the English here. And over here it just starts to break up, and these guys are going to be out of command now. There was no way to maintain command with the lead elements having done the moves that they did. There's nothing you can do about that. You just have to say, okay, those the units which couldn't maintain the formation have fallen out. And these guys were in that same circumstance, of course, because now the line's broken here. But they were in command, so they're trying to maintain it to some extent, and you see them moving up and trading some shots here. But between the carronades and the British audacity advantage, and just better ships, in the sense of not having these undergunned ships, which may not represent less guns, it may actually represent less manpower. The Spanish generally tended to underman their ships for the amount of guns on them, and it would affect their sailworthiness too, which isn't covered in this game. Although I could see an option handling it. Anyway, they end up trading shots and just not getting a good return for their investment, as it were. And now we have, I guess, this next column here of English too. Likewise, again, I think this English formation is getting too complex to just call it from here down to here and then up here. However, I do have, and I'm just following the formation line there, so it's not like anybody was getting out, but I do have Rodney with his 7 hex range. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and he can keep that whole formation under command directly due to his good range. So that's not bad. And as we move into turn 4, see a couple of Spanish ships have broken up and are now just floating wrecks. This one's possible to become one too. It hasn't. All the fires went out at least. Going underwater does that. No, the fires went out just before they actually broke up. So that'll move us to another turn. And we have kind of an image of what's going on. The British line out here kind of side slipping its way down to get a better grip on what's left of the Spanish squadron. In a sense, there's no point in fighting this out. But there aren't a lot of scenarios where you just get to beat on the enemy side, although I've done it before. But if there was a chance to break, the Spanish would have it. Now the question is, why can't they break? And that's what's not clear in the scenario. It sounds like the English were trying to keep them from being able to get out. They had them trapped, essentially. As far as I'm concerned, that depends on what the English do. If the port's over on this side, close to me, well, yeah, the Spanish can't go back to port, but they could strike out to sea. And that's the situation you see in a lot of these scenarios where, well, what does it matter? Why shouldn't the Spanish be able to break? Because historically they didn't get away? Well, maybe we should play out that pursuit situation a little bit, which is something that I often mention. The historical results that are noted are what? 6 ships taken out of 11 and 1 destroyed early in the fight. I don't think we're going to see that. But here is a situation where the Spanish do have to actually get off the map to end the scenario. For whatever reason, it's been chosen for this one. But you can see more or less the starting position. The Spanish got initiative and did a couple of attempts at bow rakes here on the Bienfaisant. Must be a captured French ship there. Had very little effect. But this one also slid through and got double rakes, cutting at range 0 here. Very little effect again, and ended up taking a broadside from the port. I aimed at the rigging on it because that thing's ready to sink. I just want it to stop moving because it's causing me trouble. But now the English get to move, and then all I've got is these Spanish out of command ships, which it's kind of a question of, well, you know, do I want to trade shots with them, see what kind of trouble they can cause? Why not? Try to use this command here that's all together and chase down these. It looks like these Spaniards are trying to run for it just to reduce the overall disaster that's going on. And that's actually what I would play out. Like when I play out most scenarios, I would roll for the break event and say, okay, everybody's out of command now, essentially, and start sailing them away with the escape imperative and you know, some right to still they have defensive fire and such now, but no real no real ability to maneuver in and try to destroy an opponent's ship. At least not without a command roll, and whatever that might mean. Here we get to why command rolls become very, very difficult. I'm breaking formation with this lead ship. Why? Because it's trying to get away. That's a perfectly valid reason to break formation. You're crippled, you should be allowed to leave the battle. And, you know, all the rules that would apply to this, you have to kind of take it with the same kind of attitude that you take when, say, doing, hey, what I just recently did with, where's South Mountain on here? It's down here somewhere. I just played it. I think it's down there. And why is that? I better open up a space if it doesn't claim the name on it. Anyway, with some of the things like the CWB series and interpreting orders and that, you kind of have to do something similar with this. And you don't have to express that in the rules in a way that just nails everything down, but you do have to express it in a way that allows players to kind of come to an agreement as to how this kind of thing works. Of course, that's not going to work very well for tournament play, but come on. How much are people going to play this at a tournament? Maybe. I mean, there are tournament rules for it. Anyway, my feeling is this is not the kind of game that really competitive gamers try to play a lot. I think it's more along the lines. You know, I've been thinking more and more, I think I mentioned this before, that I kind of want to rip out my Battles of the Age of Reason again. Given that this has kind of won me over, I was beginning to enjoy those towards the end of the one that I played towards the end of when I played it, and I don't want to write them off. I bought enough of them anyhow. All right. Anyway, we'll keep moving those Brits. Now the rest are going to try to stay in some sort of form. Move into turn 5 here, and it almost feels like I'm cheating this scenario because the Spaniards are turning and running, putting full sail up with these guys. These guys look like they're trying to get away, and it looks like they've given up. This ship, which is about ready to sink anyway, is struck colors. Still got these guys who are low on rigging. There's a good chance they're caught, that I can't get away with them. But yeah, I'm not sure what the motivation behind the special rules for this scenario, which say the Spanish sort of fight it out till the bloody end, is. It gives them a chance, but it's not a pleasant chance. As the commander of the Spaniards, I want to break. I want to leave. And I can't see sticking around and fighting this sucker out, given the circumstances, given the amount of, still perfectly capable British ships that are in the line, and what little damage that I've managed to deal out to the Brits so far. I just feel like it's a matter of lose all your ships or try to leave. And now here on turn 5, we're up to breezy, which means we're going to have some higher speeds as well. The English won initiative, and I've got kind of an interesting situation I want to show in some more detail. So they moved this ship 1 hex forward. It took fire from the Spaniards, rigging shots. I'm trying to slow the English down so they can't chase me off the board, cripple any more of my ships, however you want to look at it. But here's the thing. With my formation change rules, the English have some choices. They could swing into kind of a line-type cluster and move down in that way, or they could follow. And here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to spend another movement point. Now I'm down to 3. That's how I track my movement. When I'm doing it on camera, I'm a little bit more anal retentive about keeping this number counter out there. Now I move here for another move that drops me to the 2 marker. And now I have a chance at doing a bow rake if I want. And what's kind of nice about the position that I'm doing, swinging through in front of the ships, and I may do this with a couple of the ships, is that it forces the Spaniards then to cut through me. Now they're going to probably get some rakes on me. There's no question of that, but they may not be wanting to hit Hull anyhow. So this may be for the best. I'll come back after I fire that. Well, let's show it just because I haven't shown fire. So I'm going to be doing a starboard fire. This is what ship? The Ajax. I think it's fired its starboard guns already. Yes, it has. So now we calculate it out. It's a third rate. It has not taken any damage at all, so it doesn't have any penalties for that. Remember, I'm tracking 6 points of damage with an X. Sort of like you'd count 5 with lines. Well, 6 is my magic number here. Okay, so I'm a third rate at range 1. That gives me 12. Now it's in the gray area, so I get an extra 1 for that white circle. That puts me to 13. I got to check the bow rake. I want to cripple this thing, so I want to take advantage of that. The rake doesn't really matter if I'm going for rigging, so I'm going for hull here. And I make a roll. I subtract the audacity, which is 2, so that's 4. But I add 1 range to target, that adds it to 5. I don't get a rake, so I'm not going to get the 50% extra damage for a bow rake. Okay, so I'm at a 3, 12, 13 because of the white circle, 14, 15 for audacity, 16, 17 because of the carronades. I'm shooting at the hull, so I'm going to get a +1 to the die roll on the 17 table. The wind is such that it's coming down this way, so I'm neither firing directly into it nor against it. So now I hit the 17 table for the hull. And I was at +1. That'll be this white line here. So I'm going to get 6 hull hits on the Diligent. There's 1. I've got 5 more. So that's going to be a -1 penalty. Well, +1 to its rate when it fires. It's a penalty. I've got 11 hits. 12 is what I need to cripple it, so I did not cripple it. Now I go back to my movement. Oh, I forgot to fire. The Spaniards got a bow chaser fire, and they succeeded with that. That should have been done beforehand. But they certainly would have done that. So they've hit another point of rigging. And now I've got 2 more movement points. Now, I got a number of choices. I could position myself facing this way to grab the speed, or I could just keep sailing down the line. That costs no movement points. 1, 2. Now I'm out here. Now the problem with this is I've fired my starboard guns already, so the Spaniards are going to be able to slide through. But I'm keeping my positioning for speed because I believe this is going to be a chasing type of battle. And now I move to the next ship on the line. This is all moved up. This guy's going to have 5 movement points, or this guy has 4. Which one do I want to do first? Hard call. One, 2. Now I could fire again, or I could go 3, 4, 5, and a turn. So that's what I'm going to do. 3, 4. I get to bow rake him again. That leaves me with 1 movement point, and we'll see what that does. This isn't quite what I intended to do. I intended to drive the whole line down, but I see I don't have a lot of movement for the rest of the line. So I'm going to take what shots I can and keep my formation there. Alright, so bow rake. 6. I've got a commander, but Rodney's a 0 because he's lying in bed right now. So all I get is the audacity off, but that's good enough. It's a successful rake. Oh, I think I forgot the range 0 last time. Oh well. I'm always making mistakes here. So he's sailing in what here? The Sandwich. The Sandwich is fired. It has no damage. It's a second rate. At range 1 is 15. The black circle says that goes down to 14. But now 15, 16 for range 0, 17, 18 for my Audacity, 19, 20 for the carronades, no wind effect, and I've got the rake this time, +1 because I'm firing at hull. I get 4. I'm going to get 6 hull hits. That goes up to 9 hull hits because of the rake. And on a 9 or less, which is guaranteed, I'm going to get a fire marker on the Spaniards. So I'll mark those casualties. Now one more sufficient, and sometimes I shorthand this by not marking them all down. One more sufficient to get the ship crippled, and then I'll have 6, 7, 8 more hits on it. We pull this aside. He did not get his bow chaser this time. I'm not sure. I may have been at range 1 with him. That would be right. He's only got 11 hits total, and I've taken 6, 7, 8. That puts me 9, 10, 11 within 3. So I get a vulnerable marker. That's just really, you know, a reminder that I have to roll for a possible strike. And now I get to continue my movement. I only have 1 movement point left. Now, I'm moving into here. I'm only allowed to do this because I can turn, but here the Spaniards get a shot at bow raking me with the San Auguste. That's a port gun. They've already fired their port gun in this scenario. So I've got 3 fire. I want the additional damage if I can get it, so I'm going with the rake. You could say that's a dumb idea. I should be going for rigging, maybe. No Audacity, just a +1 for range. I do not get the rake. So now I'm a 3, a third rate at range 1 is a 12. +1 for white puts me to 13. No other pluses. I don't have carronades, I don't have Audacity, but I have a -1 because I'm firing into the wind at the hull. I would have had a +1 if I had gone for rigging, but then I wouldn't get the possible rake bonus. So where were we again? 12, 13 at a -1. And that's all she wrote. So that's 6. I'm going to get 3 hull hits on it. I did not get the rake. I have to make a leader loss check for Rodney. He's only hurt on a 9. I have to make a fire check because there was an asterisk. And that doesn't happen. So I'll get 3 hull hits on, and I got to remember the sandwich. And that's the first shots that have hit the sandwich. Now, I've used up all this movement, but the English get to slide in like this. Now they fired a starboard bow, and now they get to unleash a port bow as well, or a port fire bow at this guy, but not before it gets to fire defensive fire at them. So, and we're getting this kind of detailed little combat thing here, but that's okay. I haven't done one in a while, and I'm more comfortable with the game. This is the Diligente, and I've got that. I don't worry about the damage that I've done to its crippled side. With the counters, they get cleared off, so this is my way of notating that they're cleared off. But I do have a penalty there, so that makes me a 6th rate. I fired starboard bow, or starboard guns, yeah. 6th rate at range 1 is a 4. Down 1, because of the black circle, brings it to a 3. I got wind in my favor, so I could take a +1 to shoot at him, at his hull. I guess I'll shoot at hull again, just because I've been doing it. And I roll a 5, which is going to be 1 hull hit. Over on the sandwich, still not enough to hurt it. Another leader loss check. Almost. And now the sandwich gets to fire its port guns, which it has already fired. And we do this all over again. 2nd rate, range 1, 15 -1 for the black circle, 14, 15, 16 for Audacity, 17, 18 for carronades at range 1. I could either shoot at the rigging or at the ship. I would like to break this thing up, I think. Although, actually, I'm looking at the possibility of capturing ships. Let's take the rigging out. That means I get a... I don't remember. I think I was on 18. So if I'm firing at rigging, because I'm going into the wind, I get a +1. If I was firing at hull, I would get a -1, but a +1 for the English, so it breaks even. So I'm going to go 18 on rigging. I get an 8, 9. I get 6 rigging and a possible fire. The fire happens. We do 6 rigging hits to this, which is going to drop its movement by 2. And the fire also has an effect. It makes it harder for this thing to... gotta make sure I get my order right. It makes it harder for this sucker to, I think it was on fire before. It makes it harder for it to shoot. It gives it a rate increase whenever it fires, among other things like damaging it at the end of the turn. Alright, well that's finished this guy's movement. Now I continue down the line for the next couple of ships to see what else I can do to that. But I've pretty much trashed this ship. Unfortunately, I haven't gotten much fire in on the rest of the line, and my hope had kind of been to cut down across the line and do a lot of damage to it. However, when they pass, maybe I get the next movement and get more of their... The net effect of the final fire here, and that was a first fire off the starboard, is I dismasted it, and it's vulnerable. It is almost certain to strike. Now here's the weird thing. If you look at just scenario victory points, having a ship struck doesn't give you any additional victory points. That just counts as a crippled ship. So actually playing by the victory points for the scenarios, and this is why I say I'm not sure I would understand people playing it for tournament, is weird, because a ship that has struck, that's crippled, that's dismasted, and is sitting in the middle of an enemy-held map doesn't really help more than a crippled ship leaving the map, or the guy with the Audacity leaving the map. That's disturbing, to say the least, to me. I don't feel like the victory conditions really do a good job of reflecting what has happened in the battle. Again, that's something like with trying to judge formations, that maybe it's best not to try to formalize with rules too much, because doing so starts making things very complicated. This ship is essentially captured. As long as the English don't leave the area of the ocean, there's almost no way that that can get away. If the Spaniards turn and defeat the British, yeah, they save it. Right? And it doesn't really matter whether the English put a prize crew on it. It's not going anywhere. Whoever owns the field is going to have that ship. Anyway, that's just a bit of ranting about something that probably isn't that big a deal. But it irritates me because when I look at the victory conditions, I say, you know, they just don't reflect what's really, you know, being represented in the game. Sinking ships is important. I can see crippling ships as important. And I can also see why they want to penalize the guy with the Audacity, whose job it is to hunt the enemy down from having ships, you know, from disengaging, as it were. Anyway, it almost feels like the only way to really handle this correctly would be to add some more detail to it and make a real big campaign game around it, the way I would with SFB. All right, well, we're into the Spanish hands, and they get to move something out of command. And the Brits probably aren't going to let them move more than... The Spanish tried to put full sails on this thing, but you can see they got knocked down as we slid up there. And then this one got kind of hammered by the last couple of ships there. So the English, mainly rigging fire, but some hull hits too. Rigging, it's almost dismasted. Because of the wind, it's going to get a couple of movement points, but basically... I'm forcing the Spaniards to stay and fight by taking their rigging down, which to me is what I should be doing. I shouldn't. One of the problems that I have with the game is that I feel like you're playing for the break point too often. This scenario takes that away. So now the English have kind of the right to go all out, or all in as you like, to say, you know, I'm not just trying to break up this fleet, I'm trying to eliminate it. And that fits more to my kind of thinking. That may not really apply very well to 18th century naval thought, though. 18th century naval, it may be, I want to knock his fleet so that it's running before they can inflict damage on me. And as we saw when the French tried to, you know, shoot rigging or something, man, the English just lit them up on hull hits. And even if the French were ahead, they'd end up running from the battle. Running from the battle is sufficient if you're leaving enough crap behind that it would make sense that the game is a victory for the person, even if they have no capacity to chase. But it shouldn't. The victory shouldn't be judged on, hey, I made him break. Defeating the fleet, destroying the fleet. That's your goal here. So, taking masts down and forcing the enemy to run is valuable. Just forcing the enemy to run, unless there's something that you catch from it, that doesn't strike me as valuable. Continuing along the same lines. Anyway, the Spanish are going to get to move another ship. And then the English, well, the English can let them go now. They've moved the column that they wanted to make sure that they got to fire on. And now they've got this big set of full sail ships. But I'll say one thing. Once you have me this engaged, trying to think about, okay, you know, can I formalize in any way what I want to do here in terms of expressing the game? You can tell you've got my interest in the game now. I mean, really, it's always been there to some extent, but it's there enough to say, you know, I like this enough, I want to make it work better. I don't know quite how to do that. Part of it is a lack of the knowledge of the history, but something is playing wrong with the way the victory conditions work out. At the end of the turn, you can see that final English column's moving up. The English get the initiative, which they have a slight advantage to getting. They'll be able to slice across there. Now, they've kept their full sail up. Why? Because 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, they can cut across an aft rake on sort of this. Not that the rake matters too much, because they're probably going to be firing at rigging still. They want to capture as many of these ships as they can, knock them out as badly as they can. They feel like they've got these two out. They've got these two. They've got this one. This one's pretty much dead. Now it's just, can I take the whole squadron? And can I take it so I can capture it? English got the initiative this time, and they pulled that full sail column down just like I said. Did some rigging shots on this thing, brought it down pretty far. 11 rigging hits, 3 to the movement. That means with the wind the way it's hitting, we're going to be getting 6 movements, only 3. So they've been slowed down tremendously. Took some rigging hits trying to come in there. But then with the, what is that, the Royal George, a first rater right there, I decided, let's just go for the aft rake. Ended up doing 14 hits, successful rake there, to the rear of that thing, crippling it in one shot. Just makes me think, geez, I should have just shot this thing up rather than, you know, leave it lying around. It's really looking to me like a complete rout for the Spanish. I want to roll that die and say they got to get out of here. I was drifting down with these ships with the intention of maybe coming in to help the other squadron, or the actual squadron in command. But, you know, at this point it just feels like, let's see what I can get off the map. The Spanish are trying to escape with these 3 ships. This poor sucker's just firing at whatever it can, but it's wrecked. I mean, it should have struck last turn probably. The chances of it not were very low, but it's still firing off guns. The English chose not to fire back at it. Not so much to save ammo or anything like that, or to save firing opportunities, more They don't want to wreck it. They don't want to make it worse. Meanwhile, we're exchanging rigging fire here, and dismasted. What is this? The Monica. Dismasted the Princessa, and pretty much wrecked. Well, this one's pretty much been wrecked. We're just slowing it down. We haven't been able to take down its full sails. Doesn't look good for the Spaniards. I don't think they're going to get much off the map at all. And here we are at the end of another turn. You can see a couple dismasted Spanish ships. Another one's, this one's struck, this burning wreck. The English are on full sail here, which means they'll probably be able to at least engage here somewhat. This guy wishes he was up to full sail. He was trying to protect his squadron, but it looks like they're going to end up in a lot of trouble. This guy was going full sail. He's lost it. You can see I kept a reserve unit. We're going to get 2 ships off. There's no question there. But other than that, I don't know. Actually, which one is this? This is... okay, that's not damaged. Yeah, I think it's pretty much determined. I open things up by trying to pull away with these couple of ships. They're just giving everything else up, basically. Then the English try to push forward on this, but they're not going to be able to catch there. Everything else Spanish is struck except for this, the dismasted stuff, which, yeah, we've gotten some firing back and forth, but that's all that happens there. So these guys are going to run off the map. I'll just take them off. And then we're back to the English, and we can try to catch with this, but I think it's going to be a tough hit to try to even catch this guy before he... Oh, that was incorrect. I forgot I had this forward squadron that I hadn't hit yet, and they came up, virtually dismasted it. It's down to just 1 mast point left. It has, 2 movement points maybe. It's on fire. It's pretty much gone. The only real question is, will the English get the first move? If they do, they can get a couple of ships into play to hit this. I'll take care of the end of turn bookkeeping and then play that out. But otherwise, this guy's going to start gaining some distance, maybe. Well, it's a weird situation because you can kind of chase them down. My feeling, though, is what the English will do is try to keep their fleet together, not send ships chasing, this and whatever went off there, which is probably out of range, except for a very long... it's not in range for a lucky shot, essentially. I don't know if there's any reason to play anything else out on this. I think I'm just going to cut it, because what it comes down to right now is, hey, do the English get the initiative? Yes, they do, so they're going to get shots in on this. They should be able to get the rigging shots in. This guy is going to be able to get some shots in. He's going to be gone. That was, I think, 6 move. I've got 3 more left with all that sail on. Now I've got penalties on the sail. I'll take care of the shots on that. I'm going to ignore the rest of the battle, just the things that... Still wrong. This poor sucker has been dismasted. Basically, this one's still alive, barely. But essentially, two Spanish ships escaped. 2 were sunk. I think there's a 3rd one that's about ready to go down. It might be this one or this one. I don't remember which one. And the rest are going to be prizes. Obviously, I don't know what this scenario's, victory conditions should be judged at, but in anything like standard victory conditions, the best thing you could possibly do is get away with them all. Fighting this thing out is just silly. Anyway, though, I had some fun playing it out. I'm going to take a little break from wargame-ish type things. I want to get something out that's a little different. And then I'll go back to Crusades. Come back to these probably, because I am having my fun with them. Up it goes.